"Can I sit with you?" asked the limping boy to the biker. What he discovered is unthinkable. The little town was calm, with only a few cars passing by and the occasional laugh of children playing somewhere in the distance. On the side of a dusty road, there was a small diner with a few tables set outside. The diner had an old charm, a faded red sign, wooden benches that creaked when people sat on them, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee mixing with the warmth of the sun. Most days, it wasn't very crowded, and the people who came here often knew each other. Today, however, the atmosphere had something different, almost like it was waiting for a story to unfold. Sitting alone at one of the tables was a man unlike anyone else in the area. He was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a black leather jacket that had scratches and marks from many years of use. His jeans were faded, and heavy boots covered his feet. His helmet rested on the table beside a steaming cup of coffee. This man was a biker, a traveler who had seen more roads and towns than most people in the town had ever imagined. His face carried the marks of many journeys, a few scars here and there, laugh lines around his eyes, and a certain calmness that comes from knowing life is both unpredictable and full of lessons. He had parked his shiny motorcycle just outside the diner, its chrome glinting under the sun, and he seemed content to sit quietly, sipping his coffee and watching the world go by. As he sat there taking slow sips and enjoying the warmth of the sun, the sound of slow, uneven footsteps approached. It was not the hurried or light steps of someone playing or running, but heavy, careful steps, each one deliberate and cautious. The biker glanced up and noticed a small boy limping toward him. The boy seemed to be no older than 10 or 11. He wore simple clothes, a faded t-shirt with a small tear near the collar and a pair of shorts that had seen many summers. His shoes were scuffed, and it was clear they had carried him over many long walks. The boy's eyes were striking. They were deep brown and full of curiosity, but also something else, something the biker could not immediately name. There was a hint of worry there, as if he carried the weight of the world on his small shoulders, but also a sparkle that hinted at courage and hope. The boy's left leg dragged slightly as he walked, the limp slow but determined. Every step seemed to require effort, yet he moved forward with an invisible strength that the biker felt immediately. For a moment, the boy stopped a few feet away from the table, looking up at the biker. His hands fiddled nervously with the strap of the small backpack on his shoulder. The biker studied him quietly, unsure what to make of the child. Many bikers were used to people approaching them, but something about this boy felt different. There was no fear, no hesitation. Only a quiet determination that was almost magnetic. Then the boy spoke. His voice was soft, barely above a whisper, yet it carried a tone of courage that made the biker sit up a little straighter. "Can I sit with you?" he asked. There was a pause, a hesitation, as if asking the question required bravery of its own. The biker blinked, taken aback. The question seemed simple, yet it carried something profound. Here was a child, limping and alone, asking a complete stranger for companionship. The biker looked at the empty chair across from him, and then back at the boy. He noticed the small hands gripping the strap of the backpack tightly, the careful way the boy shifted his weight to balance his limp, the way he stared with eyes that seemed to see more than just the world outside. They seemed to see a part of the biker's soul as well. After a moment, the biker nodded. "Yeah, sure," he said. His voice was calm but kind, carrying a sense of welcome. He gestured to the chair. The boy's face brightened with a small, grateful smile, and he moved closer, carefully lowering himself onto the chair. It wasn't an easy motion, but he did it with dignity. The biker could see the effort it took him to balance, but the boy didn't complain. He just settled in, adjusting slightly, wincing a little as he moved his leg. For a few moments, they sat in silence. The boy stared at the biker's motorcycle with wide eyes, fascinated by the chrome and the curves, the engine that seemed powerful even when silent. The biker noticed the fascination and allowed a small smile to form. He had seen many people admire motorcycles before, but the way this boy looked at it was different. There was curiosity, wonder, and admiration, but also a quiet longing, as if the boy imagined what it would feel like to ride it himself. Finally, the boy spoke again, this time a little louder. It must be fun to ride that," he said, his voice carrying a mixture of awe and longing. Do you ride a lot?" The biker chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Yeah, I do," he said. I've been riding for a long time. Roads like this, they become part of you after a while. He paused, noticing the boy's intense gaze. Why do you ask? The boy shrugged, trying to appear casual but failing to hide the excitement in his eyes. I like bikes. I like how they go fast and how the wind feels when you ride. But I can't really run or play like other kids, so I watch bikes instead. He looked down at his limp leg for a moment, then back up at the biker, his eyes reflecting honesty and a hint of sadness. The biker's heart softened. There was something about the boy's honesty, his courage to speak despite his circumstances, that moved him. He had seen many people in his life, many children too, but few had carried themselves with such quiet dignity in the face of struggle. He wanted to say something encouraging, but wasn't sure what words would be enough. Instead, he just nodded, offering a gentle smile. You know, he said slowly, bikes aren't just about going fast. They're about feeling free, about seeing the world in a different way. You don't need to run or play like other kids to feel that. The boy listened intently, hanging on every word, his eyes wide and eager. The boy shifted slightly, careful not to hurt his leg. Do you think I could ever ride one? He asked, almost whispering, as if speaking the question too loudly might shatter the dream. The biker studied him for a long moment. There was hope there, yes, but also bravery, determination, and a spark that refused to be dimmed by life's difficulties. I think, if you really want to, anything is possible, he said finally. You just need the right bike and the right guide. The boy's face lit up with a small, excited smile, one that was genuine and full of life. They continued sitting there for a while, talking quietly. The boy asked questions about the motorcycle, the biker's travels, and the places he had seen. He listened eagerly to every story, imagining himself on the road, feeling the wind, hearing the roar of the engine. For the biker, it was strange and beautiful to see the world through the eyes of someone so young, yet so wise in their own way. After some time, the boy reached into his backpack and pulled out a small notebook. He hesitated, then held it up slightly. I like to draw, he said. Sometimes I draw bikes, and things I imagine I could make. The biker leaned forward slightly, curiosity piqued. There was something about the boy's eagerness, his quiet determination, that made him want to see. But he didn't ask yet, not wanting to rush the moment. Instead, he simply smiled, encouraging the boy to continue. The boy's fingers trembled slightly as he opened the notebook. The pages were filled with sketches. Some were simple, some were detailed. But even in the simplest sketches, the boy's creativity and intelligence shone through. Each line, each curve, each note beside the drawing revealed a mind that thought far beyond his age. The biker's eyebrows rose slightly as he looked closer. For the first time, the boy seemed to relax completely. He talked about his designs, about what he imagined, about the places he wanted to go and the things he wanted to see. And for the first time in a long time, he felt seen, not just as a boy with a limp, but as someone with ideas, dreams, and courage. The sun started to dip slightly toward the horizon, casting a warm glow over the diner. The biker glanced at the boy and realized that in a single afternoon, a quiet encounter had begun to form, something unusual and remarkable. A bond that neither of them had expected, but both would carry forward. The boy had come looking for someone to sit with, and in doing so, he had found a listener, a mentor, and perhaps, unknowingly, a friend for life. As they continued to talk, the biker realized that life often worked in strange ways. The small town, the quiet diner, the bright afternoon, none of it mattered as much as this moment, this connection, this shared understanding between a limping boy and a wandering biker. And for both of them, it would be a day remembered forever, not for the sun or the coffee or the road, but for the meeting of two souls whose paths were never meant to cross, yet did, and changed them both in ways they could not yet fully understand. After the boy had shown the biker his notebook and sketches, there was a silence between them, but it was not an awkward one. It was a silence filled with understanding. The biker sipped his coffee slowly, his mind racing with thoughts about the boy's talent, courage, and determination. It was rare to meet someone so young with such insight and creativity, and he could sense that the boy's ideas were more than just dreams, they had potential. The boy shifted in his chair, his leg still causing him discomfort, but he didn't complain. He was used to it by now, though it never made him feel any less frustrated at times. Do you really think I could build something like this one day? He asked softly, pointing to a page filled with detailed sketches of a small device meant to help people walk more easily. The biker leaned closer, studying the drawings carefully. "I don't just think you can," he said slowly. "I know you can. You have something most people don't: brains, creativity, and determination. You just need the right guidance and maybe a little help along the way." The boy's eyes widened, shining with hope and disbelief. He had spent countless hours imagining that someone would understand his ideas, but he had never dared to hope that a stranger would take them seriously. "Really?" he asked, almost whispering, as if saying it louder might break the magic of the moment. "Yes, really," the biker said, smiling warmly. "And if you want, I can help you. I may not know everything about building things like this, but I know people who do. And together, we might just make it happen." The boy's face lit up with a joy that was rare to see in someone his age. He had faced challenges his whole life, being unable to run or play like other kids, feeling left out at school, and carrying the weight of his disability silently. But in that moment, he felt something he had never felt before. Someone believed in him. Someone outside his family, outside his small circle, someone who saw his potential. They began talking more, their conversation flowing easily. The boy shared his ideas about how the device could help not only him, but also other kids who had trouble walking. He explained in detail how it would work, pointing to sketches in his notebook and describing the mechanics he had imagined. The biker listened attentively, asking questions, sometimes nodding in admiration. He was impressed not only by the boy's intelligence, but also by his persistence. "You know," the biker said at one point, "most people would just sit and complain if they couldn't do something. But you're thinking about how to solve the problem. That's special." The boy blushed slightly, looking down at his notebook. I just don't want other kids to feel the same way I feel," he said softly. "It's hard sometimes. I feel left out. I watch others run, play, and laugh, and I want to, I don't know, be like them." The biker nodded, understanding more than the boy could know. "I get it," he said gently. "It's not fair that you have to struggle while others don't, but you're turning that struggle into something powerful. That's courage, and that's what will make a difference." For a while, they continued to talk about ordinary things: school, hobbies, favorite foods. But always the conversation would return to bikes, machines, and inventions. The boy's curiosity was endless, and the biker enjoyed sharing what little he knew. They laughed together at small jokes, shared stories about childhood adventures, and even the biker found himself recalling memories he hadn't thought about in years. At one point, the biker asked about the boy's family. The boy hesitated, fidgeting with the strap of his backpack. "It's just my mom and me," he said finally. "She works a lot and I don't see my dad ever, so I spend a lot of time on my own, thinking, drawing, dreaming." There was a sadness in his voice, but also resilience. He had learned to rely on himself in ways most kids never had to. The biker felt a pang of empathy. Life had not been easy for this boy, yet he had not given up. He was curious, brave, and intelligent beyond his years. The biker decided in that moment that he wanted to do more than just listen. He wanted to help guide this boy, to give him opportunities that might otherwise never come. As the afternoon passed, the boy grew more comfortable. He began asking questions about the biker's travels, where he had gone, what he had seen, and what it felt like to ride long distances. The biker shared stories of deserts that stretched endlessly, mountains that kissed the sky, and roads that twisted like ribbons through forests. The boy listened, imagining himself on the seat of a motorcycle, wind in his hair, free from pain and limits. "You've seen so much," the boy said finally, his voice full of wonder. "I wish I could see the world like you do." "You will," the biker replied, smiling. "You just have to start somewhere. Even small steps can take you far, and one day maybe you'll ride a bike just like mine." The boy's eyes sparkled with excitement. Then, as if inspired by the conversation, the boy reached into his backpack again. This time, he pulled out another sheet of paper, filled with calculations and notes that showed a level of understanding far beyond his age. I tried to figure out how to make the device lighter," he explained, "so it's easier to move. I read about gears, levers, and springs, and I drew it here." The biker leaned in closer, astonished. "You've done all this by yourself?" he asked. The boy nodded a little shyly. I just want it to work. I want to walk without pain one day and maybe help others too." The biker felt a mixture of admiration and concern. He knew that what the boy wanted to do was ambitious, maybe even difficult for someone so young. But he also knew that this was exactly the kind of determination that could change lives. "You have a gift," he said finally. "And gifts like this, they deserve to be shared with the world. We'll figure it out together." The boy smiled again, this time with a mixture of relief and joy. He had never met anyone like this biker, someone who didn't just see him as a boy with a limp, but as a thinker, a dreamer, and a doer. The biker realized that he had been alone on the road for many years, yet in the company of this boy, he felt a new kind of connection, a reminder that life's journeys were not just about roads traveled, but about the people met along the way. As the day wore on, the sun started to sink lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the diner. The boy was still talking, still sharing ideas, and the biker continued to listen, occasionally asking questions, offering advice, and laughing at the boy's small jokes. They had formed an unexpected bond, one that felt genuine and important. It was the kind of bond that could change the course of a life. Then came a moment that made the biker pause. The boy looked up at him, eyes wide and serious. Do you think someone like me can really do something big?" he asked. There was vulnerability in his voice, a small fear that his dreams might be too much for the world. The biker placed a hand gently on the boy's shoulder. "I don't just think so," he said firmly. "I know so. You have courage, intelligence, and heart. That's more than enough to make a difference. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." The boy nodded slowly, letting the words sink in. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly understood. The weight he carried, the challenges, the frustrations, the doubts, felt lighter. He realized that while the world might be difficult, there were people who would believe in him, who would guide him, and who would walk with him when the path seemed impossible. As the evening approached, the diner began to empty, leaving only the boy, the biker, and the fading light of the sun. They packed up their things slowly, the boy carefully putting his sketches and notebook back into his backpack. The biker offered to walk him partway home, a gesture that surprised the boy but made him smile warmly. As they walked together along the quiet streets, the biker noticed how carefully the boy stepped, how he adjusted his weight to compensate for his limp. And yet, despite the difficulty, the boy's spirit seemed unbroken. He talked excitedly about his ideas, about the possibilities, about the things he hoped to accomplish. The biker listened, encouraging him, offering advice, and occasionally sharing a story from his own life to inspire confidence. By the time they reached the boy's small home, the sky was painted in hues of orange and purple. The boy turned to the biker, eyes shining. "Thank you for everything today," he said softly. I've never had someone just listen like that before." The biker smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in years. "It's my pleasure," he said. "You have something special, and I'm glad I got to see it. And remember, this is only the beginning." The boy waved goodbye, his small figure disappearing into his home. The biker watched him go, a sense of admiration and inspiration lingering. He had come to the diner for a quiet afternoon, to rest and enjoy the sun. But he had left with something far more meaningful, a reminder that courage, intelligence, and heart could be found in the most unexpected places. And as he walked back to his motorcycle, the biker realized that this encounter would stay with him forever. Not because of the boy's limp, not because of his age, but because of the spark inside him. A spark that refused to be dimmed, a spark that had the power to change lives. The days that followed the first encounter at the diner were different for both the boy and the biker. Something had shifted in their lives, quietly but powerfully. The boy woke up every morning with a spark of excitement, eager to continue working on his ideas and dreaming bigger than ever before. The biker, on the other hand, found that he thought about the boy more often than he expected. He had met many people on his journeys, but few had left such a lasting impression in such a short time. One morning, the biker decided to visit the boy again. He parked his motorcycle outside the boy's small home and waited, watching as the boy slowly emerged, backpack slung over one shoulder and a notebook clutched tightly in his hands. The boy's limp was still present, but there was determination in the way he walked, a quiet pride that came from knowing that he was being seen for who he truly was. "Hey there," the biker called gently as the boy approached. "Ready to show me more of your work?" The boy's face lit up with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. I think so," he said. "I've been working on a new design. It's different from before, but I think it might really help." They walked together to a quiet spot under a large oak tree near the edge of town. The boy carefully sat down, opening his backpack and pulling out the notebook. He turned the pages slowly, showing the biker the intricate drawings and detailed notes. Each page was filled with calculations, sketches, and ideas that revealed a mind far beyond his age. The biker leaned in, examining the pages closely. He had expected talent, but what he saw surpassed even his expectations. The boy had not only improved his designs, he had also thought about the practical challenges: weight distribution, ease of movement, durability. The biker felt a growing sense of awe. This was not just a child's hobby, this was the work of someone who could one day change the way people lived. "You've done all this on your own?" the biker asked, his voice filled with genuine amazement. The boy nodded, eyes bright. I read books, watched videos, and tried things on my own. I wanted to understand how it all works. I don't want to just dream, I want to make it real." The biker smiled, feeling a surge of admiration and pride. "You have something very rare," he said. "You don't just dream, you act. Most people never reach that point, and you're already there." For hours, they sat under the tree, discussing designs, ideas, and possibilities. The boy explained how he had thought about every detail: the materials, the mechanics, even the way a person would feel while using the device. The biker asked questions, sometimes pointing out small details that might need adjustment, but always with encouragement. The boy listened carefully, nodding and making notes in the margins of his sketches. As the conversation continued, the biker noticed something in the boy's eyes, a mixture of curiosity, determination, and something deeper. He had met many talented people in his life, but few with such a relentless drive to learn and create. He realized that this boy was not limited by his disability. In fact, it seemed to fuel his creativity. The challenges he faced had sparked a determination that could not be ignored. After a while, the boy closed the notebook and looked up at the biker. I want to show you something," he said softly, "something I've been keeping hidden." The biker raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Hidden?" he asked. The boy nodded a little hesitantly. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a small wooden box, carefully wrapped in a cloth. It's my prototype," he said. "It's not finished and it's not perfect, but I wanted to show you." The biker's curiosity grew. He had expected sketches and ideas, but a prototype? That was beyond what he had imagined. "Can I see it?" he asked gently. The boy nodded and carefully lifted the cloth, revealing a small mechanical device. It was intricate, made of small metal parts, gears, and levers. Even in its unfinished state, it was clear that the device was designed with intelligence and precision. The biker's eyes widened as he studied it. This is incredible," he said finally. "You made this all by yourself?" The boy nodded again, a small smile forming on his face. I wanted to see if it could really work. I tested it a little carefully. I didn't want to break it." The biker picked up the device, examining it closely. He was amazed at the boy's ingenuity, his understanding of mechanics, and the attention to detail. "You've thought of everything," he said. "I mean, the way the gears move, the way it supports weight, it's impressive, really impressive." The boy's chest swelled with pride. For the first time, he felt that his efforts were recognized, not just as a child's attempt, but as real work that mattered. He had spent countless hours alone, struggling, imagining, building, and testing. And now, someone he respected was seeing it all and acknowledging it. As they continued to examine the device, the biker noticed a small problem with one of the gears. "This part here," he said, pointing carefully, "it might not hold up under weight, but it's fixable. And I think with a few adjustments it could work even better than you imagined." The boy's eyes lit up with excitement. "Really, you think so?" "I know so," the biker said firmly, "and I want to help you. I know some people who can help us make it stronger, safer, and even more functional. Together, we can do this." For a moment, the boy was silent, overwhelmed by the offer. No one had ever offered to help him like this before. His dreams had always been his own, carried quietly in his heart and sketches. But now, someone believed in him enough to join him on this journey. "Thank you," he said finally, his voice soft but full of emotion. I don't know what to say. I've never had anyone care about my ideas like this before." The biker smiled warmly. "You don't need to say anything. Let's just make it happen." Over the next few weeks, they began working together in earnest. The biker helped the boy gather materials, find tools, and reach out to people who could offer guidance on engineering and mechanics. The boy's determination never wavered. Every day after school, he would rush to meet the biker, eager to work on the prototype, make improvements, and test new ideas. One afternoon, the boy brought a new drawing. This time, a full design for a mobility device that could help not only him but others like him. The biker studied the plans carefully, amazed at the boy's ingenuity. This could really work," he said finally. "You've thought about everything. I'm proud of you." The boy beamed. I want to help others," he said softly, "not just me. I want other kids to feel like they can move, like they can do things without being left out." The biker nodded, touched by the boy's selflessness. "That's the most important part," he said. "Helping others, that's what makes a real difference in the world." "And you already have that in you?" As the days passed, the prototype began to take shape. The boy tested it carefully, making adjustments, learning from mistakes, and refining the design. The biker guided him, offering advice and encouragement, but always letting the boy take the lead. It was his project, his dream, and the biker wanted to respect that. Then came the unthinkable moment, the day when the boy decided to demonstrate the prototype fully. He had made improvements, strengthened the gears, adjusted the levers, and was ready to try it in a controlled environment. The biker watched as the boy positioned himself carefully, taking deep breaths to steady his nerves. "Are you ready?" the biker asked, his voice calm but filled with anticipation. The boy nodded, determination shining in his eyes. He activated the device and slowly, carefully began to move. At first it was awkward, but with each step his confidence grew. The device supported him perfectly, allowing him to walk with a fluidity he had never experienced before. The biker's heart swelled with pride and amazement. This boy who had limped through life, who had faced challenges that would have stopped many people, was walking, truly walking, for the first time with the help of his invention. Tears pricked the biker's eyes as he realized the power of determination, creativity, and belief. The boy looked up, his face shining with joy. It works," he exclaimed, laughing with happiness. I can walk." "Yes, you can," the biker said, his voice filled with emotion. "And this is just the beginning. Imagine what else you can do." For the first time, the boy felt limitless. His dreams were no longer confined to sketches and imagination. They were real, tangible, and alive. And beside him, the biker knew that this moment, this unthinkable discovery, was a turning point. They had not just created a device. They had created hope, possibility, and a future that neither of them would forget. The days after the prototype had worked successfully were unlike any other days in the boy's life. The small device he had designed and built, with the biker's guidance, had given him something he had longed for since he could remember, a sense of freedom. Each morning, he would put on the device and walk carefully around his home, then gradually increase the distance, growing more confident with each step. The boy's limp, which had always made him feel different, now seemed smaller, less defining, almost like it had been replaced with hope and possibility. The biker, too, felt a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced in years. He had traveled countless miles, met thousands of people, and seen many wonders, yet nothing had touched him like this boy's courage and determination. There was a quiet satisfaction in knowing that he had helped nurture someone's talent and confidence, and he felt proud to be part of a journey that was much bigger than himself. One morning, as the sun rose over the quiet town, the boy was already outside, testing improvements he had made to the device overnight. Each step was steadier than the last, and his confidence grew with every attempt. The biker arrived on his motorcycle, the engine roaring softly as he parked nearby. The boy waved, excitement shining on his face. "Good morning," the boy called out. "I made some small changes. I think it will be easier to move now." The biker smiled, walking over to examine the adjustments. "Let's see," he said. "You've been working hard. I'm impressed." The boy demonstrated the device, walking, turning, and even trying small movements he had never attempted before. Each step was a victory, a testament to his persistence and creativity. The biker couldn't help but feel inspired by the boy's determination. He realized that this journey had not only changed the boy's life, but also reminded him of the power of hope and belief. As the day went on, the biker suggested they take the next step, testing the device in a real-world setting. The boy looked nervous but excited. "Do you really think I'm ready?" he asked. "I know you are," the biker said firmly. "You've worked too hard to stop now. Let's go somewhere safe, but let's try walking beyond your home. You deserve to see what you can do." They chose a quiet park on the outskirts of town where the grass was soft and the paths were smooth. The boy positioned himself carefully, then began to walk. At first, he moved slowly, cautiously testing each step. But soon, he was moving more confidently, adjusting naturally to the device's support. The biker followed closely, keeping a careful watch but letting the boy take the lead. Other children in the park noticed the boy walking differently. At first, they stared in curiosity, but soon their curiosity turned into admiration. They saw a boy who had once struggled, now moving freely and confidently. One child approached hesitantly. "Wow, can you really walk like that?" The boy smiled, nodding. "Yes, and I made this device myself," he said proudly. He explained briefly how it worked, careful to use simple words so others could understand. The other children were amazed, and the boy felt a new kind of pride, not just in his ability to walk, but in sharing his knowledge and inspiring others. The biker watched from a distance, a warm feeling spreading through his chest. This was more than just walking. It was hope, inspiration, and proof that determination could overcome challenges. He realized that this boy had the potential to change lives, not just his own, but the lives of others who faced similar struggles. Over the next few weeks, they continued refining the device. The boy learned more about mechanics, design, and even materials science, while the biker offered guidance, encouragement, and occasional stories from his travels to inspire him. The boy's confidence soared. He started sharing his ideas with teachers and other children, explaining his designs and encouraging others to think creatively. One afternoon, the biker suggested they take the device to a local workshop where engineers could offer advice and possibly improve it further. The boy was nervous but excited. "Do you think they will understand?" he asked. "They will," the biker said reassuringly, "and even if they don't, it's a chance to learn and grow. That's the important part." At the workshop, the engineers were amazed. They examined the device carefully, asking the boy questions and listening as he explained each detail. They offered suggestions for improvements, and the boy absorbed everything, making notes and asking follow-up questions. The biker watched with pride. The boy was no longer just a child with a limp. He was a young inventor, confident, curious, and capable. As the day ended, the boy and the biker walked home together. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The boy carried the notebook filled with sketches and calculations, his face glowing with excitement and determination. "Thank you," he said quietly, breaking the comfortable silence. I couldn't have done any of this without you." The biker shook his head gently. "No, you did this yourself. I just helped you see what you already had inside. You have courage, creativity, and determination. That's all that matters." The boy smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. He realized that life could be hard, but with the right support, belief, and perseverance, anything was possible. He thought about the other children he could help, the ideas he could create, and the possibilities that awaited him. The days turned into weeks, and the boy's mobility device continued to improve. He walked longer distances, helped younger children learn to use the device safely, and even began teaching small classes about creativity, problem-solving, and perseverance. The biker was always there, supporting him, guiding him, and sometimes just listening as the boy shared his thoughts and ideas. One day, the boy stood before a small group of children and adults, demonstrating how the device worked. "I want everyone to know," he said, his voice strong and confident, "that challenges don't define you. You can create solutions, help others, and make a difference. I did it, and you can too." The crowd applauded, and the boy felt a warmth in his heart that he had never experienced before. He had not only achieved something incredible for himself, but he had also inspired others to believe in their potential. The biker watched quietly, his chest swelling with pride. He had met the boy by chance, shared stories, and offered guidance, but the boy had done all the hard work. And now he was changing lives. As the sun set that evening, the boy and the biker walked together toward the diner where it all began. The memories of that first encounter, the quiet diner, the small request to sit together, the shy smile, and the shared coffee, felt like a distant, magical moment. Yet it was the beginning of everything: friendship, growth, discovery, and hope. "You've come a long way," the biker said, smiling. "I'm proud of you." The boy looked up at him, eyes shining. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said softly. "You believed in me when no one else did." The biker shook his head again. I just helped you see yourself the way I see you. You have something special. Never forget that." The boy nodded, understanding the deeper meaning behind the words. It wasn't just about walking, building a device, or impressing others. It was about belief, courage, perseverance, and the power of one person helping another. Years later, the boy would look back on that day at the diner as the turning point in his life. The small act of sitting beside a stranger had led to an incredible journey, one of growth, friendship, invention, and inspiration. The boy had learned that life's challenges were not walls meant to stop him, but doors meant to open new possibilities. And the biker had learned that sometimes, the most meaningful journeys are not measured in miles, but in the lives we touch along the way. The boy continued to invent, to inspire, and to help others. And every time he looked at the prototype he had created with the biker's help, he remembered the lesson that had changed his life. Courage, creativity, and determination could overcome any obstacle. And friendship, the quiet belief of someone who sees your potential, could make the impossible possible. As they rode together on the biker's motorcycle one evening, the boy felt the wind against his face, the freedom of movement, and the joy of possibility. For the first time in his life, he felt limitless. And beside him, the biker smiled, knowing that the boy's journey was only just beginning. The town, the diner, the quiet afternoons. They were all part of a story of hope, determination, and the unthinkable discovery that changed both their lives forever.